to see how Damon gets along with these guys. I'm guessing he knows their worth, but fears what could happen if they get a little bit too big for their boots. As for Alicent and Helena, unfortunately, they will remain at King's Landing. Rhaenyra and Alicent had a deal, but after Jace's death, all bets are off. The Red Keep is just not safe for them anymore. Once again, Alicent is an outsider. Rhaenyra will take the capital and anything green is getting burnt, and many are speculating that Helena may finally get a scene with Dreamfire. He did show up in Season 1 when Aemond tried to go down that path in the Dragon Pit, but we've never had Helena and Dreamfire together. So I'm hoping we do get that scene eventually, but by the looks of it, Alicent will eventually take a trip north to Harrenhal, perhaps to rejoin Aemond after she witnesses firsthand Rhaenyra the Cruel. Maybe she plans on meeting up with her brother and Criston Cole. Like I said, she's an outsider now. King's Landing is not safe for her nor her family. Even if she stays true to her word and opens the city gates, Jace's death changes everything. But now it's Aemond's turn at Harrenhal to enjoy the company of Alice Rivers, a character who he becomes very close to in the books. I fully expect Aemond to show up in Clear House with Vhagar, but I'm not too thrilled about the idea of Aemond having his own sequence of visions just like his uncle. I'm not saying that's going to happen, I don't know, but I've got a feeling they might go down a similar path, which will eventually lead to the battle above the gods. They probably just don't have a clue what to do with Aemond and Vhagar right now. They have to keep them away from the action until he's ready to face Daemon in Season 4. And in Aemond's place, Ormond Hightower is being set up as the main villain of this season. He leads his armies against Daemon's, but it's clear he has his own motives. He's not on Team Green, not really, he's on his own team, Team Hightower. They want to put the kid who grew up in Old Town that looks more Hightower than Targaryen on the throne. And as for the face of Team Green, the man they crowned king, Aegon and Larys are now prisoners, likely en route to have their heads taken off by Dark Sister. But it's never that easy. Larys is a slippery fellow, and Aegon still has a massive part to play in this story. He has sworn to kill his brother for what happened at Rook's Rest, but he has more immediate concerns, like staying alive. They clearly escape, but the problem with Aegon, like many characters at this point, is they do very little in the book, and the show has to create new material for them. Sometimes it works wonders, sometimes you get fantastic characters like Viserys, whilst other times you get Daemon's nightmares. Let's just hope Aegon isn't wasted in 5-minute cameos each week until he gets back on track. It looks like at some point he will reunite with Sunfire, so that's probably the highlight of his season. I feel a lot of characters right now are just waiting for Season 4. They don't have much to do until the finale. And even though I wasn't fully blown away by the opening episode, I'm still very hyped for the remaining 7. They're never going to please everyone with every decision they make, but I kind of like where much of the story is going, whilst I have my reservations about others. But only time will tell, we'll have to see how it plays out. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.
Today we're answering a very simple question. Is planetary industry worth it? In the year of our Lord 2026, with all the recent updates, all the changes that came the past couple years, should you get into PI finally in 2026? Let's talk about it. If you want the best EVE guides, you came to the right place. Ladies and gentlemen, Loru here, digital advertiser, content creator, and EVE enjoyer for the better part of 10 years now. And this is going to be a very simple video. Is it going to be worth it for you to do PI? We've got 3 separate scenarios to talk about. 3 scenarios that I believe encapsulate a PI enjoyer. Before we get there, let's talk about what the heck is PI in the first place. What is planetary interaction? Well, in layman's terms, it is a thing you can use, a system in EVE, to make some extra, we're going to call it, for example, if I go back down to this, and if we go to a storm planet, we can get plasmoids. Plasmoids can make superconductors. Superconductors can make Ukami superconductors, etc. And each one of those is also used in some blueprint in something. You can see Ukami superconductors, which is what I make, can help make mobile tractor units, mobile MTUs. Okay, so you can see it's required 2 of them to make 1 MTU. So, and these go for 30 million a pop. So that's like a quick rundown on what is PI. Let's talk about some assumptions we're going to have for this video on answering the question, is PI worth it? First, we're going to assume if you're in high sec, you're going to be a semi-casual player. Okay, we're going to assume that if you're in high sec, you're going to do a couple things. Let me actually write this out. So if you're in high sec, we are assuming that you're going to have, this is like your casuals. All right, this is somebody that is basically only have like one account, right? One account. And if you're in, let's say you're in end game, this is null sec. And this is going to be the worst D of my life. Oh, thank God I can control Z. Let's say you're in end game. This is null sec. This is wormholes. This is Pochvin. All right. If you're in one of those areas, that's the worst C I've ever drawn, then you will be able to get maximum yield in this area. The third type of person is someone that is doing indie. Now, this is not, they're probably in null sec, all the end game areas, right? They're probably in this area, but they're not necessarily in those areas because a lot of indie people like to have different routes for different things and like to, they're using PI as part of their indie pipeline. They're not using PI to sell. So this person is making PI to sell in high sec. This person is making PI to sell in the end game. And this person is making PI as part of their indie pipeline. And this, by the way, is also many accounts. This is like 3 to 10 accounts. So this is a typical 3 to 10 accounts. You're going to give me some leeway, chat, because this is a new tool. That's the assumptions. The other assumption we have, if we're answering the is PI worth it question, is you have good skills with PI. We need you to answer the question if you have at least Command Center upgrades 4, not rank 5, 4, interplanetary consolidation 4 at least, and the rest of these can be 3. So like advanced planetology 3, planetology 3, remote sensing 3. Like done. You don't have to have any of these up to 4. I think you might need planetology to 4. Yeah, you have to have planetology to 4 for advanced planetology. Fine. Oh well, Nordic, what's up? We're talking about PI, so good to see you. You don't have to get these to 5 to answer the question, is it worth it? This is one of the main things that people think when they look at PI.
Loru, do I have to be max skilled? Do I have to have all the
skills? Not at all. You can just do it like this with the basic 4s and call it a day. Okay, so that's the assumptions. I'll cover all the other skills and the various things involved at the end of the video. If you have a question on skills, that's going to be at the end. Okay, so let's talk ISK. Raw, unfiltered. What do you make in these areas? Well, in high sec, I've been able to make 400 million a month with 6 characters. Okay, now this is, we say one account here.
Lord, you said one account.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm telling you what I've been able to make. Let's cut it in half then, if you don't like the fact that we have 6 characters there. Fine, let's call it 200 million ISK. Okay, let's do 200 million ISK a month. Now, to some of you, that's not a lot of money, but to people that are casual, that's, guys, the hardest billion to make in the game is your first billion. The hardest 100 million to make is your first 100 million. After you do that, you can just keep doing it and doing it. So PI is one of those ways you can make your first billion very approachable. So if you're in high sec, you'll make about 200 million ISK a month with 3 characters. And this is considered like 1 main and then 2 alts. If this is all confusing to you, go check out our guide in our playlist. Okay, so the end game people, this is going to be like basically you like plex every account. This is not a joke. Okay, this is plex every account, PI every character. Like this is just the reality that most of the people that are in nullsec that are doing this right, or most. Maybe you have 20 accounts and you're like,
I don't want to do PI all day.
Okay, fine. You don't have to do 30 accounts of PI. But let's say you're doing most of your characters have PI and you're doing it on them right now. So indie is going to be all of this, okay, but more. Okay, because these guys are signing into everything and doing all this, right, and more. Flexing an account every month, you need, what's it, like 3.5 billion ISK per month, per account. Totally doable. Why I think it's totally doable is because my setup that we detail out in Pochvin makes a couple billion ISK every 4 to 5 days now. It used to be 3 to 5, but you know, I'm not as on the ball with it right now as I used to be. So I'm making a couple billion every week, 5 days. If I'm really pushing, it's like every 4 days. So you do the math, like 4 billion ISK times, what is that, let's call it 5 days. That's 20 days. That's 4 times 5. That's 20 billion ISK. Let's say we do it one more time. That's 25. Let's call it 24 billion ISK a month. I'm literally affording all the things every single month by just doing PI. So it really does help. It really does work. I'm not even doing an indie pipeline. I have some indie pipeline. The people that we know have big indie pipelines. They're doing even bigger, better stuff. So when I say that the indie people are doing this but better, I take the PI. I'm this person in Pochfit. I take the PI and I sell it at Jitta. These people take, the indie people, they take the PI and they use it as part of their pipeline. Their margins are higher and the time it takes to get there is longer. They play the long game and they do it well. So let's keep talking about the stuff. That's the raw ISK. That's the stuff we want to talk about there. Let's talk about a time investment.
Hey, Loru, is PI worth the ISK per hour?
That's the wrong way to think about this. This entire video was actually spawned from a chatter before our stream broke. We've recently come back and we're fixing things. Thanks for your patience. Our chatter said, like, you know,
Is PI worth ISK per hour?
Wrong way to think about it. And I've thought about this a lot. I don't think PI can be talked about ISK per hour. I think it should be talked about ISK per action. You sign into the game most days and you're like, you know,
I might only have 10 minutes today because I have work to do. Wife's talking to me, kids are talking to me, my friends are gonna go play. We're pushing Mythic Plus like one of our mods does, with some of our buddies in WoW retail. Great. I'm gonna do that instead.
And you only have like 10 minutes to play. Well, PI, you're gonna make a ton of ISK in that 10 minutes because it's a system. When you have it set up based on our playlist, you set it up, you click a couple buttons, and then you can sign off the game. I wouldn't call it passive. I would call it effective income on a per-click basis. Okay, now, the initial setup is a lot of time. We're talking some hours. The initial setup is bad. We're talking a lot of hours, like call it 2 to 3 hours, just to like set it up, to practice, to get stuff going. I'm going to tell you how I would set it up if that's intimidating to you. So just give me just a sec. The initial setup is kind of intense. It's going to take you some time. You're going to be fiddling with layouts. But once you're done, you're going to have one planet. One of the things that people make a mistake on is they're like me. They think they have to be like me.
Oh, I have to set up 6 planets that have maximum skills.
No. You can have rank 4, and rank 3, rank 4 planetology, but you know what I'm saying. Tell you what, you don't need advanced planetology. It's just advanced. Who cares? Set up one planet one time to make P2s. Let me talk about this. Okay, so if you're brand new, you want to set up one planet that's making P2s. Now we detail this out more in depth on our P2 guide in our playlist, but let me just give you the skinny. We use these extractors. This side, and again, I don't have my pen tool installed because I wiped my window, so please forgive me, okay? This side is making biofuels. This side, these 3 right here, go down here. These 3 are making precious metals. I take the biofuels, the precious metals, and I combined them, input, to make biocells. So we take a P0, we make a, did I mess this up? I think I did. We take biofuels, precious metals, no, editor, you can keep this in. Yeah, to make a P2. P2, yes, geez. I was like, help me. We make the P2s with this on planet. This is a big deal because some people think, oh, I have to have a P0 planet and then I have to extract everything to a P1 planet and then I have to go. No, you don't have to do that at all. You could just have everything on a single planet and go 0 to 1 to 2 and then you extract off and make the money. Do this with one planet before you do anything else, okay? Because once you practice with this, you then, let me switch back to blue. I actually really like this tool. What do y'all think about this? This is kind of cool. You're going to practice this. Once the routine is achieved, you open up more planets. Routine into more planets, okay? Then you start doing more planets. Now, do you have to do exactly as I say when I say it? No. I'm not your dad. Do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. I'm just trying to give you a guide on what I recommend to you to make it stupid easy. If you don't want to do this,
Or I want to dive into 6 planets
as God intended
and just make the most.
You can. Good luck. It's a little bit tough. You can. There's a lot to learn, but you can. I believe in you. I think you'll be able to do it. So let's talk about the next phase. After you have your routine, you then need to actually haul and get stuff to market. We're going to talk about a little bit now haul to market. I have my stuff set up on 4-day cycles. Okay, 4-day cycles. And I haul twice a month. Okay, I haul twice a month. I do this because the planets don't fill up. They don't really fill up fast. So I make sure I only have to haul twice a month because I have 4-day cycles. Now, you do not need 4-day cycles. You can have 1-day cycles. I don't recommend you do anything less because then you're just PI. You're not doing anything else. But this is working for me. I found it to be the most effective for my schedule. When I started doing PI, I was doing 2-day cycles because I really wanted to stockpile and push. Now I don't need to. Now we're good. So do this as a start if you're gonna do PI, if it's something you would like to have happen there. Okay, so let me zoom out so y'all can see this. And then let's talk about some fits for hauling and various things. So when, in the interest of talking about is it worth it, we have to look at the basic stuff. If you're in a high sec, if you're this person, you're gonna be using a squall, okay? No, well, yes, but you're gonna be using an epithal. Epithal is the basic one, it's very, very cheap. We're gonna show this for you in just a sec. This is gonna be like, you really should be using a deluge, but that's the thing I recommend the most. But squall is also huge, and yes, the torrent is for big stuff. These people are using the avalanche. Okay, these people are getting all their big stuff. They're avalanching and they're torrenting. Spoilers, I'm using both the torrent and the deluge. Let's give you those fits right now. So, and all of these fits, by the way, will be in the description for you. Totally free. Takes 2 clicks. We don't gate this stuff. It's over on our Patreon. We treat it like it's a blog. Do not think that you hear
Patreon, he wants
money. No, it's been free. It has been free. Don't listen to the haters because they're just wrong. Thank you kindly. This epithal is only 20 million ISK to fly. That's pretty cheap, all things considered. It has good get me out of here's, right? We have a afterburner you can pulse trick to try to have it align a little faster. Some tank, and you can warp core out. And yes, we have some tank. No tank is going to save you from gankers, but this can give you some precious seconds to try to get out. The cloak is for if you have to cloak on a safe and nothing more. I have a nullifier on here, but guys, please, I don't think it's a good idea for you to take this into nullsec.
Loru said I can take an epithal into lowsec.
Like I said, the opposite. It's the opposite. Make sure that you listen to your boy. Okay, so this is the epithal. The next one up is the squall, and if you're in high sec, you can get this one too. It's not required because the epithal is enough, but this is a good one you can use. We have a high sec focused fit for you. I'll give this to you, and we'll make sure that it's easy for y'all. Again, this will be in the description for you. So we've traded tank for align time. The Squall is a much better ship and can get a sub-6 align time. The Squall has a better inventory space than the epithal and has better utility and has better tank. I personally do not like tank over maneuverability in my haulers. I choose maneuverability. That's a line time right here, sub-6 align. If yours is a little bit not as good, consider tech 2ing the low friction nozzle joints in the rigs. You can even take out one of these core defense extenders and putting another one there. I didn't need them because of my skills. Do with it what you will. All that'll be in the description for you. Now, you've seen us feature these before, and we're not necessarily going to cover these very quickly because these are just staples of the Laura brand at this point. Here is the Deluge. This is the best PI ship. This is the ship that made, in my opinion, PI worth it for you to play. Here's what happened with old PI, okay? Pre-Deluge. Ready? Ready?
Okay, PI's ready. I'm gonna get in my...
Ocketer, brick, massive brick in space that
Takes forever to align, and
I'm gonna go and get it at this planet.
I'm gonna get my stuff. Align out. Takes 6 seconds. Go to the next planet. Get my stuff, align out, next planet. It took like 10-15 minutes to get your haul. It was annoying. The Deluge, I'm done in less than 5 minutes. The whole thing. And the Deluge has a cargo hangar for specifically PI stuff, infrastructure hold of 30K, but ours gets 42, I think. So I have one ready to go. I do. Bless. God, I love when I'm prepared, y'all. Incredible. Let's check this out. Yeah, close all the tabs. I had to wipe Windows, so I'm getting a bunch of those messages again, right? Since we have rank 5 ships, we're at 45. This is a covert ops positive ship that has 45K worth of hold. You don't even need a torrent if you're in high sec because you're probably not going to fill it up because of the lower yield. The Deluge is going to do it for you and is much safer than the Squall because of the lower align time, sub 4, with a covert ops cloak. The NOS is just a whatever, you know. I fit my ships as if they're getting caught. Some of the haters in the comments are like,
Lowry's got bad fits.
no, you just don't listen and don't read because you don't understand why I fit these. And you can also fly the ship your way. This is how I like to fly the fits. I'm not going to say your fits are necessarily worse. I'm going to say you're wrong for not thinking my fits are good. I've never been killed in a deluge by a ganker. I've been attempted, but I haven't been caught ever. It's just a fact. You can check the kill board. So this is one of my favorite ships. So, and the last one we're going to talk about is the Torrent. Again, all these fits are in the description. Totally free. Takes 2 clicks. This is one where you do need the utility. This is a little freighter. And why is that low?
Why is the CPU red?
Here's a tip. I'm in Pochfin, and you need to be able to scan yourself out. Very helpful if you're in wormhole space. I have a core probe launcher on, and I have mainlined core scanner probes, the cheap ones, because I don't care about them. Turn it off. Look at that. CPU's back. Okay. We have this. If I need to turn it on, I can turn something else off and get this going just in case I get lost in a wormhole or lost in Pochfin. Come on, my corp lives there. We can just turn this on if we need to and get out of dodge. But this is a nice piece of tech that I've been doing in a lot of my haulers, where I bring a scanner with me and I just turn it off. The way it's there if I need it. You can do this in your PvP ships or other stuff. If you didn't know this, type 1 in chat, and if you didn't know it in the YouTube comments, you can tell me there too. These are
Always more to learn. And EVE Online.
it's great stuff. There's always more to learn. And EVE Online, we're going to keep talking about it. If you think you hallucinated, no, there's just dark matter coming out of the new portal I have in the background. Okay, so those are the fits for it. You're going to get your basic hauling stuff.
Laura, where's the avalanche?
Listen, I'm going to show you this fit. It's not like we gatekeep this stuff, but hear me. Freighters are part of capital ships. They're EVE 2.0. If you buy an avalanche and undock it in Jeddah without really trying capital ships in a safe place, and you die, don't come crying to me. I'm telling you, avalanches, if you're most people, you're not going to need a freighter. I professionally do PI at this tier, and I've used it, I used it twice because I was moving operations. That's it. These people, let's be honest, these guys don't need to watch my video. They've got it excelled out. They've got it figured out. They're good. They're flying avalanches almost guaranteed. Let me show you what this is. We do have a avalanche guide for you. You can go check it out. It's our advanced freighter hauling video. It's a 2 billion-isk ship. Yes, we brick tank it. Yes, we have the flex hardeners. This is a special shear hardener that Avalanche are the only ships that can fly this. You can actually swap the resists. Look, on the fly, 83 EM, thermal 83, kinetic 90, this is really cool. That way, if you know what kind of ship they're flying, you can come do it. These are freighters that can fit missiles. These are auto-targeting missiles. They don't need to lock onto something to start shooting. If something's shooting you, they can shoot back. But guys, this is not going to stop a bunch of gangers. This is
hey, he has missiles. 2 more people show up, I guess.
they're going to scan your ship. They're going to take you down. So make sure you watch our freighter hauling video. Ugh, pray for your boy. Got to go to the chiropractor. I've been going every week for 2 months now. Just getting old to chant those permanent debuffs. So be safe if you're going to fly the Avalanche is my point. I don't even need the Avalanche anymore. I basically sold all mine, and I just have them on my alt just in case, because I mainly use the Torrent and the Deluge. Don't believe me? Is there another Torrent right here? Boom. Here's another Torrent for you. So, they look fantastic. Some of my favorite looking ships in the game. I love my routers. They look nice. Okay. Let's answer the question. Now that we've kind of broken down the systems of PI, we've broken down the various things. Let's talk about who should bother with PI in 2026. Should you bother with it? Well, if you log in most days, if you run multiple accounts, okay, and want them quietly generating value, okay, you don't have to click them. If you're in an organized end game group, null, wormhole, or Pochfin, even low sec, you can do it in low sec too, just not as good yields. And if you're already into industry, if you're doing reactions, that kind of stuff, PI is a no-brainer for you. Honestly, it should be a no-brainer for you. Here's if it's not worth it for you. Okay, if you hate regular maintenance, if you're like,
I don't want to sign in every day to do stuff.
Fair. Don't do PI. You don't have to do it. If you only have the one character and you only like doing one thing at a time, you're like,
I like doing my incursions, and tomorrow I'm going to do Abyss. And the next day I'm going to go do blah, blah, blah. I'm going to PvP with my buddies.
If you have one character and that's all you want to do, totally fine. Valid way to play EVE. I think you can get more if you do PI, so we're making this video. But if that's how you want to play, more power to you. I'm not your dad. You can do what you want, so if you don't love UI mini games, you don't have to do PI. Because look, you know, they've improved this. They've made this better. You used to have to come in here and click this, press start, press done, press restart, blah, blah. Now you can just click one button. They took a 3-minute process and they made it a single button click. It's great. PI is in the best state it's ever been in. And if you don't like doing UI minigames, that's fine. So if you know yourself and you know you kind of like RTS style base building, because that's sort of like that. If you like passivist generation, or if you're somebody who logs in daily and just wants a really strong income method, I think PI is for you for sure. So we talked about how to do P2s. We talked about the fits for it. Let me talk about the final skills you're going to need to do this, and then we'll call it a day. So the main things you're going to need to do this are going to be fast align skills for the deluge. Let me show you some to make sure that this works. We open up a deluge here. We're going to go to the navigation tab because you can get the PI skills are self-explanatory. Basically, we already kind of covered them. Here we are. So that's such a life emptier. And it is. You got to be careful with it. Shots is right. PI is one of those things in Eve that if you let it, it will become a job, and you'll have 50 characters, and that's all you can do. I have PI on about 36, 35-ish characters, but I only really use PI on like 10 to 15 right now, depending. When I was preparing for our subathons, I opened the floodgates, and I start making all of them do more and bigger, better PI just to have a good time with it. So I'm going to answer questions, actually. The editor, keep us in. Is there a way to plan PI easier? For context, I have 12 characters, meeting through 6 planets each. After moving from Horde, having to start fresh. The short answer is you can use the templates. And let me talk about the skills, and then we'll talk about the templates in just a second, Nordic, because you're gonna love the templates. They let you copy and paste stuff. New feature as of last year. So let me talk about that in just a second, Nordic. A great question. What you want to do, Chad, is you want to make sure that you have as many agility-focused skills as possible. Okay, if I just type in agility, does it come up? No, it does not. So evasive maneuvering 5 is only 500. Can you guys see this? It's only 500,000 skill points. Yeah, to get this. That's pretty low to hit a level 5, all things considered. You want this to get as high as possible to make sure that you can align out as much as possible. It was Spaceship Command here. High speed maneuvering is capacitor. I think it was just in. Is it just called Spaceship Command? Yeah, there it is. Spaceship Command 5 is another 2% per level, and this one is a total. To get this one to level 5 is only 256,000 skill points. They're boring skills, but the skills I just showed you are ship agnostic. You train both of these skills to 5. Every single one of your ships aligns out faster. Align time is one of the most important skills in the game to have, because if somebody takes 5 seconds to lock onto you and you leave in 4, you win. You get out. It's that easy. It's that simple. Train those 2 up and it will go well with you. So let me answer the question now about those things. So PI is now easier to set up than ever because of the templates. Okay, so let me actually open this up here and let me find the button for this because I have to find it. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to reduce my production for y'all because you can can't see it because of my production here. You have a open templates button. That's right here. You can't really see it because of my production. That I just wiped my machine, so I have nothing saved. But let's say, okay, this is my this planet is making. We're doing this on the fly live. It's a superconductor planet. Let's save this. Let's call this Superconductor 1. This is Superconductor 1. We're going to save this as a template. Now, you can take this superconductor planet, go to a planet that can use superconductors, because you and I both know that certain materials come from certain planets. So here's one that can make superconductors. Yeah, so if I'm on this storm planet, if I wanted to go to this other storm planet, I could open up this one, open templates, load. This might get rid of my stuff, so I'm not going to click it. And now you can set up a template once and then quick swap it to as many planets as you want. And here's the kicker. This is machine bound. You can export these onto other machines. If you have a laptop you do stuff on, you can put it over there. You can import them, that's the same way, from other machines. And if you have multiple accounts on the same machine, you make it once on one account, you can use it for the rest of your accounts. Nordic, enjoy it. Enjoy setting up your PI again with that method I just talked about. Okay, so that alone was such a big deal. That was a big system that got changed last year. or a couple years ago, I think maybe it was 2 years ago. So the verdict is PI worth it in 2026?
Well,
But the verdict is this. My take is yes, if you like systems that make you semi-efficient, not just passive, but efficient-ish per hour. And if you don't like these, if it's something that you just like logging in and doing only active things, that's totally fine. In my opinion, you're leaving stuff on the table, but the game is yours to play. In no way am I saying you have to, or I'll be mad at you. We all play the game your way, just like I do, just like you will enjoy it at your pace. If you want our Eve PI playlist,
Eve PI playlist.
say that 5 times fast. Make sure you check out this playlist right here to get the goodies. It is the only playlist my stamp is on. You will be space rich by the end of it. How to do P2s, P3s, P4s, all the hauling, all the trading tips and secrets, they're in there. And sub right here for the best Eve guides. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much, all. Thanks very much.
Don't know how to do shit.
Exactly. They'll have a power tool in one hand and a bow and arrow in another. That's funny.
Know how to do shit. We got beer coming or what?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for
Okay.
it's
So,
probably
let's talk
super
about
busy
industry.
today,
The
so
first
I'm
thing to
trying
talk
not
about
to
when it
push
comes to
too
industry
much.
is what is
Because
industry
it is
in
Friday
EVE
and
Online.
people are taking like
The biggest
long
thing
weekends
to
type
talk
shit.
about is what industry isn't, okay? Industry isn't isn't crafting, right? In for the most part. In a lot of video games, you're gonna craft in order to like build a cool item or whatever, but like it's about bringing in like maybe really rare ingredients and piecing them together to build like a cool like meta item or whatever. And some things are crafted to go onto the market, some things are not. But the whole point of like most crafting systems is like bespoke items, right? Industry isn't that. It isn't about creating one thing at a time most of the time. Industry is about things at scale, okay? That's the difference between like crafting and industry. That's why, you know, people sometimes will be like, oh, why can't we put our names on our industrial, like the things that we build or whatever? Because like overall industry is about things at scale and things that are abstracted for mass production, okay? And in general, the main categories for industry would be Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3, and some other stuff including reactions, but we'll talk about how that relates into the other stuff, right? So Tech 1 is basically everything else that isn't Tech 2 or Tech 3. So it's all the base stuff, right? So this represents all of the Tech 1 ships, all of the Tech 1 modules, but then also most other stuff, things like tractor units, you know, any kind of deployables or you know, whatnot. Tech 2 represents advanced stuff that requires what's known as invention, okay? Well, Tech 2 blueprints do exist. Tech 2 actually takes a Tech 1 thing, like the blueprints and the information about a Tech 1 object, and then there's a research process that usually involves data cores, and that comes out with a Tech 2 item. And Tech 2 items often require extra doodads for their production. And then Tech 3, which isn't, I'm going to avoid going into too deep today because I don't have as much experience with, is a lot like the other two, but rather than inventing off of the Tech 1 blueprint, you instead reverse engineer from sleeper parts, which gives you the blueprints, which you then use for production. Okay, so we're going to start with Tech 1 industry, the basic stuff. And one of the biggest things about this is that, like, why might you want to get into this? Now, this is catering mostly to newer players or whatever. One of the things that you might hear a lot is this idea that minerals that you mine yourself aren't free. And this is part of the whole process of, like, not only the way of comprehending how industry works, but also you know, making your decisions about it. This is kind of the argument about it, which is the idea that, like, things require inputs, things are outputs. The values of the inputs versus the outputs are often important, right? That's where your profit is. And because of the way that EVE works, they are not often balanced. And to make things even worse, you as a newer pilot do not have access to all the same skills and resources that experienced pilots do, right? Now, the good news is that when it comes to industry, material cost is not necessarily skill related. So the same person using a blueprint and in the same location, doesn't matter if they have max skills or no skills in industry, as long as they can start the job, it will cost the same amount of material to build the thing. That's based on the facility and the blueprint. Now, the cost, as far as like the fees and stuff, that can be affected by skills. But the nice thing, especially with like military campaigns, they need you to build stuff, right? That doesn't actually take very much skills or any skills at all, as long as you have the BPC, as long as you have the material. So let's jump into the basics of how to build things. Okay, so level 1 complexity, basic T1 stuff. You open up the industry window, and this is going to have you all of your facilities, all of your blueprints, all of your jobs, etc., all going on. Now, I have a lot of blueprints here to choose from, so that way I can pick and choose all kinds of different stuff. So let's just go ahead and look at a blueprint. This miner 1, right? This miner 1 blueprint. Now, this is obviously a mining laser, right? So if you have this blueprint, and then you have these materials in the same location, right? Then this stuff turns into this guy, right? So you can see if I have 1324 titanium, 481 pyrite, and 119 mexilon, plus this blueprint all in one facility, and that facility has manufacturing capabilities, then I can click this, and in 10 hours and 12 minutes, I will have a miner 1 instead of these materials, and it will cost me 961 ISK in order to perform this task, okay? Now, I can't do this because I don't have the materials here according to this, but if I switch this to... This is the wrong... Hold on, I need a better BPC. I need a BPC that's here. Or BPO, rather. Alright. So this one. We'll go with this one. So if I have this material, which I have almost all of it, but not all of it. Whatever. Boom. Great. Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so since I have this material, I have a total of 193 pyrite and 138 titanium at this location. I can hit this button, and in I think it's 4. Is that 4 hours or is that 4 days? I think it's 4 minutes, right? We'll find out. And 346 ISK. This will be finished. So I can hit start. Oh, I also don't want this. I want it to end up in the item hanger. Up here, it lets you pick which location you're getting your materials from. Down here, you pick where the output goes to. And then if I hit start, you'll see that I now have this job running. And it's 4 minutes. It's 4 minutes and 40 seconds to complete this set of things. So I'll have 100 more Proton M when I am done with this task in just under 4.5 minutes. Great. So to summarize, with a T1, all you need is, if you have the correct materials and the blueprint and the location, and you smudge them all together, out pops the result. And it's just that simple. And so for instance, all ships, right? If we're looking at ships, oh my gosh. So, all frigates are going to have, well, different... E-war frigates and logistics frigates have one cost, and then all of the combat frigates have their own costs. So we can see, like, for instance, the Griffin has 6.9 million ISK worth of materials that go into it. Whereas... Oh, no, that's for 19 of them. Hold on. For one of them, It has 365,000 ISK worth of stuff in it, which that makes a lot more sense. Whereas this Merlin has 488,000 ISK worth of materials in it. So the combat ships have a little bit more material in them than the E-War, or the combat and attack ships have a little bit more than the electronic warfare and logistics. But basically, across the board, all the way up to battleships, it's just a matter of having the correct minerals to rub together to make the ship. All the way up to battleship. So if we even go with like Drake, you can see it's just minerals. Now these minerals have different locations that they come from, right? We have on my infographics page on the Notion, I'm not going to go too deep into extraction, but here we can see that, and this is slightly out of date, but here you can see that there is a chart that shows all of the different minerals and what kind of rocks give those minerals, what area of space those rocks come from, and what crystals that you need to mine in order to mine those efficiently. But what you can see is that there are some minerals, for instance, titanium, pyrite, and mexilon, that come, a lot of it comes from HiSec. And then there's Noxium and Isogen, who have the primary source being in Lowsec. And then you have Zydrine and Megasite, which have a primary location of Nullsec, right? And so if you want to get into this stuff, this is one of the reasons why, like, mining all of the materials that you need in order to build something isn't necessarily the right way to do stuff. It's good to get the minerals and the materials that you can get easily, and then also just grab the little bit that you need. Like, if you're a HiSec producer, chances are just grabbing the, buying the Zydrine and the Megasite that you need is going to be the most effective way for you to get it in general. So there's going to be probably some trade for this, but the point of this matter is that with these 7 minerals, you can produce so much stuff. Most Tech 1 stuff is basically just some combination of these 7 materials. This is true for guns, this is true for ships, this is true for basically everything, okay? So then, there is the special kind of Tech 1. There are some Tech 1 that require some additional resource on top of that. And the big 2 that stand out to me are the Triglavian and Edencomp ships, okay? So Triglavian ships, like the Vedmak, what we can see here is that it requires all of the materials, all of those minerals that we had, plus these 2 extra materials. And these are the materials that come from... Oh, shoot, I'm not showing anybody. What you can see here is it takes all 7 of the minerals, but then also the 2 extra materials up here, which are from the Abyss. And then these 2 down here, which we will get to in a little bit. We're just going to call these, for now, we're just going to call these R4 reactables. They're going to show up a lot in T1 as it gets more complicated. And then likewise, we can go to the Stormbringer. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Which this has all of the
I don't
minerals,
think we've had this guy before.
plus one of the
He
trig
sends me a
minerals,
message, hey, there
and
must
then
not be a
these
booze
extra
person in
doodads,
Hamburg.
which
I'm
come
grabbing
from
in a hat and
Edencom,
heading your way. He had to go to
salvaging from
hat.
Edencom ships, I think. Or not salvaging, but like
I said,
looting
oh,
off
dang.
Edencom wrecks.
Yeah, we normally
and,
order Longbrow, but stores been
especially the
sold
orcas
out.
or whatever. Either way, this comes from killing Edencom
Pulse
stuff,
has it.
and that allows you to build
They can
Edencom
only,
ships,
this
right?
is DoorDash.
So
I know, I'm
They
just,
only
I'm
these
go
saying,
to the
I'm
stores
just, I know,
because
I
they
understand.
have
are
cards
require a little bit more
that are only
complicated than
approved
that.
for
Like
those
for
stores.
instance, the mobile tractor unit, right?
It just sucks because like he should
The
have
mobile
fucking.
tractor unit
If I had cash, I could use the fucking
takes
cow.
the minerals,
They go to Paul.
but then it also takes in some PI.
It just sucks
There
because
is a
if
lot
he
of
would have
advanced,
fucking
or there's a lot of
messaged,
T1
like, or like when
takes at
he was
least
at
some
the LCBO in
PI.
Pembroke,
This
I
is
would totally
planetary
get him
interaction.
get something
And
out.
there's a link down below for like a planetary interaction guide for like how to
Because I
harvest
got
stuff with
dab,
planetary action, but we're not
but I
getting too
put
deep into that
on
this time.
for
So it takes a little bit of
for my
minerals, it takes the
substitution, I
PI,
put
but it
low and
also
brown.
takes a small tractor beam.
Because
And so
if
the
they're
small
in
tractor
pet, they
beam,
probably have the
we can
low
look here.
brow.
I know,
and
but
see-
he because I had ordered
This takes
dab,
minerals.
he got
So
dab.
again, you just put the minerals,
I understand.
rub it together
So,
with the
can't be
BPC, you
fucking
get a
picky
tractor
right
beam.
now.
You then
I
take
just
that
feel
tractor
fucking
beam,
bad that
and
he
then you
went to
take some of
fucking-
that PI and a little bit of Zydrine,
Unless
and
he
you rub
was
it together,
in
and you
pet, he's
get
just
a
using
mobile
that
tractor
as an
beam.
excuse.
Okay?
Because
So
I,
T1
again,
is,
I don't know
is
who
still
this
pretty
fucking
simple.
Austin guy
Maybe
is.
there's a couple of extra
But I
resources
feel like
here or there
I already
that
fucking
you need
tipped
to
him
find
$5.
for some of the specialty stuff.
And now
But in
he's, like,
general,
driving
it's
all
basically
over?
get base get base minerals or materials,
Maybe he was
get
there, though, I
BPC,
don't
get
know.
manufacturing facility, shove it all together, out spits thing. Okay?
So he's on his way. Is
And
that
of
what
course, you
you're
can
saying?
do this
Yeah,
any
it
sort of
says
runs.
delivery in
Now,
progress.
one thing to think about when it comes to industry, especially T1 industry, is we're talking about things at scale. Okay? Again, you're not necessarily going to be able to make massive profit off of any given industry. If you are going to be able to make money off of this stuff, the margins are usually pretty thin. If only just breaking even. One of the things about this, some people say minerals that you mine yourself aren't free, and that is true. But honestly, producing things and then selling the products can be a good way of selling a lot of minerals in batches. So like even if you just break even, it still can be easier or better than trying to haul and sell the minerals or whatever. Especially since, again, this isn't a bunch of random stuff. There are 7 minerals. If you can maintain your own stockpile of those 7 minerals, then you can kind of just print out whatever you want with the materials based on the BPCs that you have. Now, before we get too much deeper, I do want to point out that the difference between BPOs and BPCs and how they work. So, a BPO, every
I told him to come to the site
standard
where
blueprint, non-faction blueprint, begins its life as a BPO. Okay? So we have these BPOs that we can have, and you can even see BPOs on the market. BPOs most of the time come from the market. Now, for those of you who do not know, the market is for fungible items only. So that's why you have to repackage things in order to put it on the market. They must be completely indistinguishable from each other. And the only time that BPOs or BPCs are fungible are when they are completely unused. Okay? They've never been touched, they've never been used for any kind of industry whatsoever. So these BPOs that are on here are completely untouched BPOs, and they're mostly sold by NPCs. This is where they start, okay? There are 3 different things you can do with a BPO. We've been talking about manufacturing off of it, and that is definitely one of the more important things that you can do with a BPO, is you can use it for manufacturing. But we have 3 other buttons here, and then 2 grayed out buttons. The first button is material research. There is material research, and there's time efficiency research. So basically, anytime you get a brand new BPO, it is not as good as it could be, because every BPO can be researched up to 10% material efficiency and 20% time efficiency. Every cycle of study or research on your BPO, if it's material efficiency, it's worth 1%, and if it's time efficiency, it's worth 2%. So you get twice as much time efficiency, but it's the same amount of effort in research. And how much effort it takes depends on the BPO, okay? So if we go to this small tractor beam, right, and we see, oh man, this one's completely unresearched. I don't know, I want to research it. So I can go here and I can say 10 runs. It is going to be a 10% material efficiency blueprint when this is done. It's going to take me 3 days and 13 million ISK. Okay, I mean, that's fine. Good thing I only need to do this once for this. And so I can put this in. But then if we look at, let's say, that Drake again. This Drake BPO is also not researched. So what happens if we try to research this all the way up? Oh my god, hey Nick! 07 Nick. I remember as a newbie, I struggled to turn raw ore into minerals without losing so much ISK, but if I built the stuff with it, I would have lost money compared to selling raw ore. That's actually a really good point, Strawberry. I will drive home right now, which is that as a new player, like you might think, oh, I should mine my own stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into efficiently mining and efficiently reprocessing minerals. So while you're doing industry, you might as well think about things in terms of like just buying the minerals yourself while you perfect more stable methods of getting your minerals yourself, if that's what you want to do. Like if you don't have really good reprocessing skills and a good reprocessing location and whatever, you are throwing away minerals versus just selling the raw or rocks and then buying the materials that you need. Yeah, what's up with the unlimited text? Every time I put it in, it's not unlimited. Not what? I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, you do need max skills and implants to refine it yourself. By the way, if you need help with that, I do have max skills in reprocessing. Hit me up if you need me to, and we can get your stuff reprocessed for you, especially if you're in the convocation. Either way, my point is I want to research this Drake. So I'm going to try to put it in for 10 runs, and we can see, oh no, I can't actually start it because it's going to take 52 days. And so if I go for 9 runs, then it takes 22 days. And I'm only allowed to maximum run start time exceeded of 30 days. So I'm not allowed to research this at one time with 10 runs. I would have to do it as 9 runs, and then in 22 days and 123 million ISK, then I would have to do it for that last day, which that itself will be 30 days, and that by itself will cost me an extra 170, I think, million ISK. So, you know, when you start getting into battle cruisers, when you start getting into above battle cruisers, like getting those last bits of research ends up being a big ask. But anything below cruiser, like you should never use a BPO that isn't researched as much as you possibly can. Okay, so you know if you, as an industrialist, what you start to do is you buy BPOs. And then you just can start to research them. You can use your science slots, which you get with the science skills. And you can just, over time, be researching your BPOs until you get a nice collection. You also, remember I said you can't get them on the market, but you can get them on contract. Before you decide to start doing this stuff, like, okay, I realize that this Drake BPO is going to cost me, what, 300 million... plus another 300 million probably. Yep. So 600 million to research all the way up. I wonder if I can find it in contracts. So we can see, nope, well, that one's not fully researched, but it's pretty close. It's 10 and 16. There's 9 and 18. You can see these are very expensive. These 2 billion ones, these are very expensive. But again, we're dealing with something that actually costs quite a bit to do. So some of this cost comes from that. If we want to just like, let's say you wanted to start like building Merlins though, right? If we just go for Merlins, we can see that like a fully researched, a fully researched Merlin BPO is 20 million. So even though you could research it yourself, it might just be worth it to you to just grab a research BPO if you can. But the whole point is that this gives you reduction in both how much material it costs and also how much time it costs. Now, the other thing to think about this, though, is that rounding is almost always not in your favor, okay? So this 10% reduction in mineral cost may not necessarily be that valuable to you, right? Again, with something like the Zaluni or something like that, with hundreds of minerals and thousands of minerals, and that works out pretty good. This is also done on the full scale of runs, so it might work out better with a larger number of runs. But the point is that, like, let's say if we went with like a capital ship, for example. So let's look at the rope wall real quick. Just for not saying that new players should be looking at the rope wall, just to understand the mechanics here, right? So this rope wall BPO is completely unresearched, and it costs 1.6 billion ISK worth of materials to build a rope wall with this setup, right? So we would expect with a 10% ME to be close to 3.3 billion, right? Maybe even 3.2 billion, if the math works. But if we look at this one, we see that it's not 3.2, it's 3.88, right? So it's not actually cutting it by 10%. And the reason why is because a lot of these things have less than 10 in the build, right? It takes, if I have 0 material efficiency, then we see that this requires 5 capital drone bays. But if I have 10% efficiency, it still requires 5 capital drone bays. So that material research does nothing for the actual, I mean, not nothing, obviously, because it is better. It goes from, again, what was it, 3.657 to 3.388. So it's definitely cheaper at maximum research. But the other thing to remember is, like, let's look at how much it would have cost to research that. It would have cost me 282 days and 19 billion ISK to research that. So it's taking me a year and 19 billion ISK to save 200 million, or like basically 6 or 7% off of the build cost of subsequent rope walls. Although now that I have this, I can just copy this all I want, and I can sell these for copies on the market where people will want them because they want to build a rope wall instead of having to build, or like have this giant, huge, expensive BPO, right? So that's how that works. So that's ME and TE, but that leads us to copying, right? So we've been talking about BPOs. You can tell they're BPOs because they're dark blue. BPOs have what's called infinite runs, okay? Is there an easy way to see that? Yeah, it says original infinite runs. So you can use this BPO, any of these BPOs, as many times as you want. Let's go back to something that's a little bit more simple. So this Merlin BPO, I could use this to build 1,400 Merlins at a time. I could build 1,400 Merlins. It would take me 29 days, 62 million ISK to put in the job. It would cost me 614 million ISK worth of materials, and the output would be 152 million ISK worth of Merlins. Obviously, not a good idea, right? Like, with this basic setup that I have here, I would literally melt away 2/3 of the value of all of this minerals. This is what they mean when they say minerals you mine yourself aren't free. Yes, I could use these minerals to build this Merlin, but if I just sold the minerals, I could buy 3 times as many Merlins, is what this is processing, right? So that's why it's always worth considering the input and output values in order to figure out what's efficient to build. Because, like, you don't want to get caught up in something like this where you make things literally worth less in your effort. But the point here is I could build 1,000 of these at a time. And then in 29 days, I could build 1,000 more. And then in 29 days, I could build 1,000 more. All right. But what if I need 1,400 Merlins tomorrow, right? Or like in a day or two, not 29 days. Is there a way to make it so that I can make more at a time? Or better yet, here's another way to think about it. What if I don't need Merlins right now, but I might in the future need a bunch of Merlins. And again, when I need those Merlins, I don't need them in 29 days. I need to be ready to produce 500 Merlins in as short of time as possible. Okay? So I'm going to consume some of my time that I would have been using for building, and instead I'm going to kind of preserve that time through copying. So I can take this BPO and I can run copies on it. The top number is how many BPCs, how many individual items that I end up with, and the bottom one is how many runs each of those BPCs have. Okay? So with this default, I would end up with 3 new BPCs, just like these 3 right here. Although these are 8, 16. These new ones would be copies of this main one, so they would all be 10, 20 as well. But I'd have 3 of them, just like these 3. And instead of 1 run each, they would have 20 runs each. And I'd be able to trade them, I'd be able to give them away, I'd be able to use them, and more importantly, I'd be able to use them at the same time, okay? So in a day, I'd be able to build 3 times 20, so that's 60. So if I go back to here and I say, okay, well, 60. So again, 60 is 1 day, 6 hours, 27 minutes. If I want to copy it to make 60, it's 1 day, 4 hours. So in about the same amount of time, which again, skills, rigs, setups, etc., can change the balance in all this, but in roughly the same amount of time to build it, I can instead make copies to build it later.
Oh, really?
And what's important about that is, you know, it does take me to make these copies. It takes me that 1 day for the 60 guys. But then when I go to build it, it would be the same as doing this. So it'd take me 10 hours. So now instead of being able to build 60 in 60 in a day in 6 hours, I instead can build 60 in 10 hours by splitting this 60 runs across 3 lines. Because remember, I've got 11 manufacturing lines at a time with my skills. So if I could run this BPO at the same time 3 different times, then that'd be fine, but I can't. I can only build 1 thing off of a BPO at a time. But by making copies, I can now use those copies at the same time. I can parallel my processing. So if I know ahead of time that I'm going to need to build a whole bunch of a specific ship or a specific module or whatever at the same time, then I'll be able to split it into runs, and I can do the whole copy process, and then in the end, I just have a bunch of copies that are ready to go, ready to hand out, ready to do whatever, and ready to do invention. And these copies are based on the ME and the TE of the base thing, and it has the runs that you specify for it, all right? So then that leads us to the true value of industry is not having to haul 60 frigs, but only 60 frigs worth of compressed materials. It's true. It's so true. That, like, one of the biggest values of having this kind of production thing is, like, as long as you can justify it. Like, obviously, with these Merlins, not that great of an idea. I'd probably want to import my Merlins in. But, like, let's say... Now I want to check a couple things. You know, this Thrasher costs 980,000 and it's worth 976,000. So if I did 100 of these, it would cost me 98 million and it would give me 97 million. So one could argue that this is not great, right? Like, I barely break even. But if I just want 100 Thrashers, it might be easier for me to just produce them in position rather than move them all, you know, like build them somewhere and then move them into position, right? So, especially in things like wormholes or anywhere that's away from a major market hub, like the ability to manufacture what you need, just print it out, is so useful. It is a very, very handy thing. All right, but let's talk a little bit about, so we'll get to research afterwards. So far, we have ME, we have TE, we have blueprints, we have materials, we have outputs, right? That's all fine. Great. So now let's jump back to that weird thing that we said that we weren't going to address right away. So if we look at a lot of faction stuff and a lot of capital stuff, any like a little bit advanced, I like to call it Tech 1.5, requires these extra doodads, right? So if we go back to the VedMac, I built up a bunch of destroyers for faction warfare. Consider it that each job is an opportunity cost. Profitability comes from analyzing the market and looking for a niche that you can fill with your industry. That's absolutely correct. Yes. So the problem with Tech 1 Industry is that everybody's on the same game. I just explained Tech 1 Industry is very easy to understand. You just get the base material, mostly just the 7 minerals, rub it together, out pops the stuff. Which means there's very little barrier to entry for an industrialist from knowing what they want to build to being able to build it. Really, the only question is, do you have the BPO? So if you have a good collection of BPOs, you can basically do whatever you want. This is part of the problem with like running a broad scale like industry program for T1, because it's like, as soon as you know that you need 100 griffins, an industrialist can just create 100 griffins if they have the stuff already to do it. Like, it's not one of those things that needs to be distributed in the same sort of way. The biggest thing is just having a big enough BPO collection, which means that a lot of, and also, especially when it comes to ships and other stuff like the frigates with the Merlin, for example, one of the problems is that those things also get produced by FC, by just playing the game, right? People get free Merlins in their career path, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So you're competing with people getting magical Merlins for free. You're also competing with people with much better facilities, rigs, and equipment ready to go in order to mass produce Merlins and stuff. So the Merlins are going to be cost way less than they actually are worth to produce, because there's so many of them being provided into the system for free. Okay, and so that's the real thing here is that even the PvP game, industry, you're in competition. But unlike a lot of the other ones where it's like you're in competition with people and it's obvious you need to have the biggest firepower, you need to control the territory or that sort of stuff. With industry, you're competing to be the supplier, which means you either need to have a better method or methodology than your competitors, or have less competitors. And so the important thing with all kinds of industry is to try to find your niche. That's why I'm not going to be able to tell you, go build this. Because if I told you, if I made a video that's like, oh man, let me tell you, mobile tractor units are fucking great for industry. Just making that video is going to change the balance of power when it comes to whether or not something's worth building, right? And so that's why I want to give you the tools to figure out what is and isn't valuable for yourself, right? So, but to that end, we've gone over the basics of industry. There's a bunch of T1 stuff. There's some good opportunities there, especially things that are a little bit off the beaten path, or things that are constantly consumed. Ammo, fuel blocks, drones, etc. Usually you can find some pretty good markets for that stuff, especially if you think about it really hard. More obvious stuff, especially ships, are a lot harder to make a profit on, just because that's what again, you're competing with everybody else for the supply, to be the supplier. Okay? So, let's go a little bit into niches, okay? They added a little bit of extra complexity to faction ships, to pirate ships, to battleships, and to capital ships, okay? And that ends up being a bridge between T1 and T2 industry. And that is best represented between the difference between this Thrasher that we're looking at here and the VedMac that we looked at earlier. And that is these two items down at the bottom. Auto Integrity Preservation Seals and Life Support Backup Units. Unlike all of these other materials that we've got, you do not get these directly, okay? You can get these directly from killing things in the abyss. You get these by mining rocks and then reprocessing them pretty much directly, right? These two are a little bit more complicated. So we can go look at their BPC, or BPO. And these take something different. It takes some PI, and it takes reinforced carbon fiber. And if we look at reinforced carbon fiber, we see it takes these three components: carbon fiber, oxy-organic solvents, and thermosettling polymer. Okay, so we can go and look at these. Where did these come from? Really? No. How do I not have that? That's weird. I'll have to figure out why that wasn't right. But, and then so this one, which is the oxy-organic solvent, takes hydrocarbons, atmospheric gases, and fuel blocks. But more importantly, it's a little bit different. It's called a reaction formula. So this is not a blueprint original. It's also not a blueprint copy. It looks like a blueprint copy, doesn't it? It's got that light color to it. But it does say it's an original, and it has infinite runs. It also doesn't get researched. It also gets purchased directly from the market. So you can get these from NPC buy orders. All of the different reaction formulas are from different NPC buy orders. You know, whatever. So you don't copy them, you don't research them, you just do reactions with them. Okay, so reactions are kind of like normal industry with special restrictions. You know, obviously, you know, you don't make the copies of it, but you do still like need materials. So you have it's the same sort of concept. You have the materials and you have the reaction formula. You rub them together in a facility that supports it and outspits the outcome. Okay, but the difference between reactions and normal industry is that reactions cannot be done in high sec. Okay, so this extra step actually it adds in this extra little hurdle of if you're going to do the reactions, you got to have a place to do it, either in low sec, null sec, or wormhole space. And there are various different solutions to this problem. For instance, right now, a current popular solution is like Amamake has a public reactions facility. And so a lot of people like to do it there. There's other options too. But the point is that this adds an extra layer of complexity. So this means that for a lot of industrialists, if you're going to want to just build a VedMac, again, you may just not want to deal with it. Like, you get the VedMac BPC from doing the Abyss, and that's fine. You get the minerals from mining some basic stuff, that's fine. But these reactables, what I like to call R4 reactables, these guys, you might just want to buy them for now. But if you have access to a reaction facility, you might want to react them. So you can react them and then move, you know, and then build once you have, you know, reacted all of the correct stuff, then you can basically the final result is the life support backup units and the audio integrity preservation seals. And again, this just uses more reinforced carbon fiber as well as these. There's a couple other things, but I have
Fuck off.
in our infographics. This
Oh, I
one's also a
hate
little bit
golems.
outdated, but it'll still work.
Oh, I fucking hate golems.
The R4 reactable page. So this shows you,
Alright.
now the numbers are a little bit off,
Wow.
but I think most of the actual stuff that is part of it is there. So you can see that you have these 4 different materials: silicates, hydrocarbons,
another one.
atmospheric gases, and evaporate deposits. And then if you mix these 4 elements in these 5 different ways,